Hello. So this video is on the best mental health blogs by yours truly, Muriel Emerson. Humans have always had the need to tell their stories. That's no different in the blogging world either. Writing about our experiences is often a very therapeutic experience. This can be especially true when dealing with mental illness. Here are a few of our favorite blogs about mental illness and mental health. So the first one is the NAMI blog. So NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. The National Alliance on Mental Illness blog features topics on racism, COVID-19, and trauma. NAMI is the national organization that provides mental health support and resources. They also work to educate and empower those living with mental illness to live fulfilling lives. NAMI's blog also reflects current events and how they shape our mental health. From a recent post written by a Black woman experiencing anxiety during National Black History Month. Naturally, I get excited when I can talk about my personal experiences to help people understand the bigger picture. However, as I started to write a title for this blog, I could feel my heart rate rise. My hands began to jitter on the keyboard and my chest tightening. I only recently started speaking out about general trauma, racism, and being Black in America, because at times the anxiety and fear can be too much to bear. The next one is Time to Change. Time to Change isn't just about blogging. They are part of a social media campaign to reduce the stigma around mental health and encourage honest conversation. Each blog post is written from a personal experience and includes categories on depression, anxiety, bipolar, and more. This is a great resource if you're looking for a community. Next, we have Blurt. Sometimes the best way to talk about depression is just to blurt it out. The team at Blurt knows this, and that's why they're encouraging you to talk about it. They're a social enterprise dedicated to creating positive change, and they want you to know that they're here for you. From a recent blog post on active listening versus just hearing. As with everything else in life, there's no one-size-fits-all method for an effective conversation. And we can't assume that someone isn't listening to us based off a generalized idea of what active listening looks like. Though, through getting to know people, we will learn how they prefer to communicate, and we'll learn to spot when they're hearing and when they're actively listening. Next, we have the Bipolar Verbal. Natasha Tracy is a writer and social media consultant who has been blogging about her bipolar diagnosis since 2003. She's written multiple books about the subject. Though she readily admits she's not a licensed professional, still mental health isn't just limited to professionals. Her blog topics range from talking about mental illness stigma to exaggerated emotional pain due to depression. What I've noticed is that depression exaggerates emotional pain from other sources. She writes, for example, if you break up with your partner, depression isn't going to make you take it much harder than you otherwise would make you. Even something simple like the misunderstanding with a friend can feel like the end of the world with depression. Next, we have the Mighty. I've mentioned this source before. If you want to hear stories about people facing the same mental health issues as you, the Mighty is a good place to start. More than 5,000 writers have contributed to their articles on issues like supporting a friend with PTSD or dealing with mental health issues around the holidays. We particularly enjoyed this article on mental health permission slips. Basically, mental health permission slips are designed to give you permission to feel or think or do something that your brain is otherwise telling you is wrong. It helps if these permission slips come from an authority like a therapist or someone going through the same thing you are. Number 6, Beautiful Voyager. Meredith Arthur started this blog after being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I've been fighting migraines all my life and had tried every medication, and natural approach possible. I'd given up hope for improvement when my neurologist surprised me by saying, "I know what's causing your migraines. You have generalized anxiety disorder." Beautiful Voyager is a community and content space for overthinkers, perfectionists, and people pleasers. It's a curation of personal stories and essays from overthinkers all over the world. Topics include caring for grandparents during the pandemic or using radical honesty journaling. Next is a blog just called Mind. Mind's goal is to inspire and inform anyone living with a mental illness, as well as campaigns for services. Their Mind blog is based in the UK, but their topics are universal. Blogs are submitted by users from all over the UK and feature issues like running for anxiety, coping with a mother's suicide, and more. One writer shared her story on accepting her sexuality through blogging. "I didn't understand my own feelings. I knew that I was attracted to people regardless of their gender, but this went against everything I had been taught. I wasn't even quite sure about where I fit in. The difference between the gay world and the straight world seemed very black and white, but I felt stuck somewhere in the middle." This blog is The Real Warriors. This blog wants those in the military to know that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. The Real Warriors is a campaign to encourage active military and veterans to seek mental care and break down the stigma surrounding issues like depression and PTSD, especially in the military. Their personal stories section is written by service members across all branches. Topics include advice on how to seek treatment, understanding trauma, and more. So this blog is called A Splintered Mind. If you struggle with keeping your thoughts in order, you likely will appreciate Douglas Cootie's award-winning ADHD and depression blog. He's been writing on his mental health journey since 2005. Something that he jokes about is amazing considering he has attention deficit disorder. Humorous and honest, this is a good blog for anyone who needs to know they're not alone or a good laugh. Sometimes I wonder if there's a support group out there for adults with ADHD who have an open tabs addiction, he writes in one post. "Hello, my name is Douglas Cootie, and I'm a hardcore tabs junkie." That isn't to say his content is all about humor. In his latest blog post, he shares how useless, well-meaning advice for depression or suicidal people really is sometimes. A former bishop of his often changes the subject if he talks about his work or tells him he needs to stop letting his disability define him. I'm sure he means well, but since I don't recall him ever taking time to find out how my disability affected me in the first place, his advice is useless to me. Hello, so this blog is My Brain's Not Broken. Nathan started this blog in 2017 and hasn't stopped writing about his journey ever since. He struggled with depression and mental illness since he was 19. After years of research, he made it into his mission to create a place to share his story and hear from others. Topics range from dealing with weather-induced mental health to the dangerous idea of glamorizing mental health. I saw my depression as poetic, as necessary for my struggle. The more I live with depression, the more I would be able to use this pain to do something noteworthy, he writes. We treat mental illness as something to overcome or a game to win. That creates an attitude that makes people feel like they need to beat mental illness, but never to manage it. Number 11, Project Energize. Sheen is a mental health blogger who focuses primarily on anxiety and how to cope with it. Project Energize has guides, coping skills, and even mindful coloring sheets to download. Sheen's journey with anxiety started as a child. He described being constantly worried his parents would die and would be distraught when they dropped him off at school. This progressively got worse as he got older. College was a minefield for his anxiety. He struggled with finding purpose for months before finally having a panic attack. The experience made him realize how much he needed help. He started Project Energize to not only document his story, but share with others the lessons he's learned. 12. Mental health at home. Mental health at home is written by former mental health nurse and pharmacist Ashley L. Peterson, who also struggles with treatment-resistant major depressive disorder. She uses her blog to showcase an honest, no-nonsense look at chronic mental illness. It's important to me that this blog is a safe space for myself and those who visit it, regardless of disability, gender, race, or any other characteristics. Next, we have Hilary Jacobs Hendel. Hendel is a psychotherapist and the author of It's Not Always Depression. So you know her blog is full of practical and nurturing advice to get you through your mental illness. Hendel specifically works a lot of what she calls a change triangle, a map to find your true self by acknowledging all of your emotions. Topics range from how to get a good cry when you need it, to learn how to live with grief. Her recent post on loneliness feels particularly relevant right now. Loneliness, like all feelings, is not static nor stuck, even though it might feel that way. Resist any self-defeating thoughts emanating from your loneliness that might dictate your next move. Like a good parent would do, validate your loneliness, give yourself compassion, and force yourself to do one small thing today that connects you to the world. Your future self will appreciate it. Next, we have Bipolar Bandit. Michelle Clark is no stranger to depression and bipolar disorder. She suffered for weeks at a time in high school without knowing why or what she was feeling. Clark would miss weeks of school, only to make it up within 2 to 3 days of returning. It took her years of hospitalizations to realize she was bipolar. Now she works in mental illness activism and used her platform to raise awareness about the stigma surrounding them. She does that by blogging about things like why those with bipolar disorder don't reach out for help even when they need it. They have reached out before and it made things worse because either they felt guilty afterward or the help they received was not beneficial. They are embarrassed. They are afraid they will be a burden. And last we have I've Got Your Back. This blog is by psychologist Anita Sands and a little old. But the information there is still worthwhile. Her posts range from how to deal with stress of the pandemic to how to handle anxiety in the middle of the night. She also answers questions on Kiwawa for readers and even talks about why Robin Williams was depressed or whether or not SpongeBob SquarePants is mentally ill. Sans is just all pop culture references, isn't just all pop culture references though. While the blog seems to be a little inactive as of late, a post from 2018 still feels particularly relevant. I am committed to not only surviving the frightening experience of transformation that is taking place, but I am also committed to helping as many people as I can to remain healthy and resilient while it is happening. It's going to be important to have everyone here to help with the process of creating the new. So that's it for this post. Thanks for listening.